My ex cheated while I covered rent and utilities, so I took all our shared property and left her in the life she thought she controlled. I'm a 28-year-old guy, and for the past 2 years, I genuinely believed my ex, Lauren, and I were building a stable future together. I remember waking up every morning thinking, this is worth it. We're building something real. It felt good, responsible even, to carry the weight while she got herself together. I told myself that's what love was supposed to look like: patience, sacrifice, and stepping up when your partner couldn't. But now, when I look back, it feels like I was the only one doing any real building. I worked overtime shifts so I could cover the rent, the utilities, the groceries, and all those unexpected emergencies that always seemed to hit only her. She'd sit on the couch scrolling on her phone while I'd drag myself through the door late at night, sweat sticking to the back of my shirt, my eyes burning from exhaustion. "Thanks, babe," she'd say casually, barely looking up. And stupidly, I'd smile, because I thought appreciation, no matter how small, meant I was doing the right thing. Meanwhile, my bank account screamed at me every month, but I ignored it because she said she needed me. Lauren claimed she was between jobs and needed time to find herself, so I took on every financial burden without a second thought. I wanted to be supportive. I wanted to believe her. She'd say, "I just need a little longer, okay? I'm figuring things out." And I'd nod, telling myself that everyone moves at their own pace. I didn't realize then that the only thing she was figuring out was how much she could take without giving anything back. There were small red flags, secretive messages she'd hide the moment I walked into the room, late night walks that made no sense, and this cold emotional distance that settled between us like winter frost. I kept brushing it off. She's stressed. She's overwhelmed. She needs space. I convinced myself that love demanded patience, even when that patience started to feel like self-betrayal. But in the back of my mind, buried under denial, I felt something shifting. A quiet warning. A thin crack forming in the life I thought we were building. I didn't know it then, but my sacrifices weren't holding us together, they were setting me up for a betrayal I never saw coming. The first real crack appeared in the form of someone else's perfume. It wasn't Lauren's usual scent, she always wore something light and floral. This one was sharper, almost musky, like the kind you smell when someone walks past you in a crowded bar. The first time I noticed it, I asked gently, "Did you try a new perfume?" She barely looked up from her phone and muttered, "Must have been someone at the store," waving me off like I was asking about the weather. But the more it happened, the harder it became to ignore that something didn't feel right. Around the same time, Lauren suddenly started criticizing my work schedule, telling me I cared more about money than quality time. The irony was brutal. She knew exactly why I worked so many hours, because I paid for everything while she figured out life. Still, she'd say things like, "A real partner would make time," or "I feel like I barely matter to you anymore." And there I was, standing in the kitchen at midnight after a 12-hour shift, apologizing to the woman who hadn't contributed a single dollar in months. Emotionally, it was draining in a way I can't fully describe. I kept trying to reassure her, to fix whatever she claimed was wrong, even though she wasn't lifting a finger to fix anything herself. I felt like a dog chasing its own tail, desperate to make her happy while she did nothing but take. Every conversation ended with me saying, "I'll try harder," even when I had nothing left to give. At night, she guarded her phone like it held state secrets. She'd flip it over the second I walked into the room, clutch it when she went to the bathroom, sleep with it under her pillow. "Why are you being weird about your phone?" I finally asked. She snapped, "Because you're being paranoid. That's why." My stomach twisted. Then a friend casually mentioned seeing her at a cafe with another man, laughing, leaning in close. I forced a smile and said, "Oh, she probably met a friend." Inside, something caved. I didn't want to believe it. I wasn't ready to. But the tension kept tightening around me like a rope. And for the first time, I started realizing. The moment everything shifted started with a stupid $200 charge. I remember opening the utility bill on my phone during my lunch break, expecting the usual numbers, and freezing when I saw a line item I didn't recognize. $200, additional service fee. My first thought was that the company messed up. My second was that Lauren would probably know what it was, since she was home most of the day. When I asked her about it later, she barely blinked before saying, "Oh, that's a billing error. Just ignore it." Something in her tone, too quick, too casual, left a knot in my stomach. The next day, I called the utility company just to clear things up. The representative pulled up the account, hesitated, then said, "That charge isn't from us. It's a third-party transaction linked to a hotel booking." She even read the name on the reservation. Lauren Thompson. I felt the air leave my lungs. My hands were shaking as I hung up, because it confirmed something I didn't want to believe: she had lied instantly and confidently, without even thinking. When I confronted her that evening, she didn't even look surprised, just furious. "Why are you checking up on me?" she snapped, slamming her phone onto the couch. "God, do you ever stop invading my privacy?" I stood there stunned, because all I wanted was an explanation. Instead, she flipped the script like she'd been practicing. Every word out of her mouth was an accusation instead of an answer. Finally, she blurted, "It wasn't for me, okay? I booked it for a friend who needed a place to stay." But 5 minutes later, she was saying it was for her cousin, and 5 minutes after that, she claimed the hotel had charged her card by mistake. Every version contradicted the last. Every sentence dug the hole deeper. That was the moment a crack formed inside me, quiet but irreversible. My trust, the thing I'd been clinging to so desperately, didn't break all at once. It split slowly, painfully, like glass under pressure. And I couldn't shake the feeling that this stupid hotel bill was only the beginning of secrets I hadn't uncovered yet. A week after the hotel incident, Lauren suddenly announced, "I got a part-time job." Finally. She said it like she expected applause. I remember staring at her across the kitchen, feeling this uneasy chill crawl up my spine. "Where?" I asked, trying to sound supportive. She didn't hesitate. "Just, a boutique. Small place. You wouldn't know it." And that was it, no name, no location, no details. The more I pressed, the more defensive she became until she snapped, "Stop interrogating me. I'm trying to help us." But her hours made no sense. Her new, late shifts started exactly when she'd already been acting cold and distant. She'd leave the apartment at 6 p.m. and come back after midnight, slipping inside quietly like she hoped I was asleep. When I'd ask how work went, she'd shrug and say, "Exhausting," then turn away like talking to me was optional. Even physically, she felt like a stranger, barely touching me, barely acknowledging me unless she needed something. I kept telling myself this was normal adjustment stress, but deep down I knew something was wrong. Then there was the way she dressed. For someone working retail, she suddenly had a full wardrobe of fitted dresses, curled hair, and heavy perfume, more effort than she ever put into our anniversary dinners. One evening, she walked out wearing heels she hadn't touched in 2 years, and my chest tightened. "Isn't that a bit much for stocking shelves?" I tried to joke. She rolled her eyes and slammed the door behind her. The truth hit like a punch when a mutual friend pulled me aside one afternoon. She hesitated, looked uncomfortable, then whispered, "I've seen Lauren with someone. A guy. More than once. They weren't acting like coworkers." My stomach dropped through the floor. Every red flag I'd ignored suddenly lined up in perfect, damning order. I went home that night and sat in the dark, replaying weeks of lies, excuses, and disappearing acts. My denial finally cracked completely. And as the pieces fell into place, one thing became painfully clear. I had no idea what Lauren was really doing, but I knew I was about to find out. The truth didn't come in some dramatic movie scene, it slipped in quietly, almost cruelly, through a moment of pure accident. Lauren had left her laptop open on the table before one of her shifts, and a message preview popped up. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But after weeks of red flags, suspicion, and emotional bruises, my eyes moved before my conscience could argue. The name on the screen stopped my breath cold, Evan. Her ex. The one she swore she blocked. The one she cried about, saying he'd broken her heart. The one she said she'd never speak to again. My chest tightened as I clicked the message thread, hands trembling so badly I could barely control the trackpad. Their conversation didn't look new, it stretched back months. Not weeks. Months. Messages dated even before we moved in together. I felt my vision blur as I scrolled. I can't wait to see you tonight, she wrote. He's out working again. He won't notice. Another message, don't worry, I'm using his place until I'm stable. He's easy to control. And then the one that made everything inside me collapse, he's my backup plan. My financial cushion. Nothing more. I swear I felt something break inside me, something small, quiet, and essential. Suspicion had been painful. But this? This was annihilation. Every late shift, every perfume scent, every cold shoulder, suddenly it all made horrifying sense. She wasn't discovering a new job or life path. She was settling back into her old life with the man she never truly left. I was just the foundation she built her excuses on. As I sat there staring at the screen, the apartment felt smaller, darker, like the walls were folding in on me. The betrayal wasn't just recent, it was deeply rooted, strategic, almost rehearsed. I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't overthinking. I had been living with someone who never planned to stay loyal, and never planned to stay forever. And as that realization sank in, the emotional spiral I had been avoiding finally pulled me under. When I finally confronted Lauren with the messages, every screenshot, every timestamp, every ugly truth, I expected shock, guilt, maybe even a half-hearted apology. Instead, she crossed her arms, tilted her head, and said in the coldest voice imaginable, "You're obsessed with controlling me." I remember staring at her, speechless, holding proof of her affair right in my hands, and she acted like I was the one caught doing something wrong. "This is why I don't tell you things," she added sharply. "You twist everything." The audacity of it knocked the wind out of me. I told her, "Lauren, you've been cheating on me." She scoffed. Scoffed. "Oh my God, calm down. It's not cheating. It's emotional support. Evan has been there for me in ways you haven't." My jaw actually dropped. "You slept with him in a hotel room," I said. She shrugged. "You're being dramatic." Every fact I brought up, she bent into a shape that made her the victim. I'd say, "You lied to me," and she'd respond, "You weren't emotionally present." I'd say, "You planned to stay with him," and she'd shrug, "Only because you pushed me away." She blamed my long work hours, even though those hours paid every bill she never touched. Somehow, in her twisted version of reality, my effort became the reason she betrayed me. It was like arguing with a wall that enjoyed watching me break my own hand against it. I felt myself unraveling with each conversation. Fighting someone who refuses accountability feels like drowning while they stand on solid ground telling you to breathe normally. She even threatened to leave me if I kept acting paranoid, knowing full well she didn't pay a cent toward rent or utilities. Her eyes were icy when she said it. "If you push me, I'll go stay with someone who actually cares." I knew exactly who she meant. That was the moment something inside me finally snapped, not in anger, but in clarity. I realized I wasn't losing her. I'd already lost her long before this confrontation. What I was losing, was myself, piece by piece, trying to hold on to a woman who had never held on to me. And I didn't know it yet, but I was closer to breaking than I ever imagined. Rock bottom didn't come with yelling or slamming doors. It came in the silence of a dim bedroom at 1 a.m., when Lauren forgot to lock her phone. I was lying there, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself that maybe, just maybe, I was overreacting about everything. Then her phone buzzed. The screen lit up, casting this pale glow across the room, and across her face as she pretended to be asleep. I don't know what made me look, but when I did, the world shifted beneath me. The notification preview was explicit. Not flirty, not emotional, explicit in a way that made my stomach twist. It was a message she sent to Evan. Her ex. The man she swore she didn't even talk to. I can't wait until he's gone tomorrow. Same time. Same place. My blood ran cold. I opened the message thread with shaking hands, terrified of what I'd find but unable to stop. The text revealed everything, every disgusting detail I had hoped wasn't true. They weren't just meeting in hotels. They were meeting here, in my apartment, while I was at work paying for everything. My bed. My kitchen. My food. My utilities. My home. All used like props in some twisted secret romance. After what I saw on her phone, something inside me went quiet, dangerously quiet. Not angry. Not desperate. Just, done. While Lauren carried on as if nothing had happened, humming around the apartment and scrolling on her phone like she wasn't burning our relationship to the ground, I started gathering everything I needed. Every receipt. Every bank statement. Every screenshot of her texts. I collected them slowly, methodically, like someone assembling evidence for a case they already knew they'd win. The deeper I looked, the more shocking it became. I realized I had paid for everything in that apartment. The couch. My card. The TV. My financing plan. The kitchen appliances she bragged about on Instagram. Bought with overtime pay. Even the decorative pillows she insisted on, my money. The only things she ever purchased were her clothes and a $10 wall ornament she bought on clearance. The place she treated like her anchor, was built entirely on my efforts. One night, I sat with all the documents spread out across the dining table. That's when I learned something that changed everything. Legally, every item purchased under my name belonged solely to me. Not shared. Not disputed. Mine. The realization was like breathing fresh air after months underwater. For the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of power returning to my chest. Meanwhile, Lauren grew bolder, reckless even. She'd stroll out of the apartment for her late shifts, wearing outfits she never wore for me. She'd leave her phone face down, smirking whenever it buzzed. She had no idea I knew. No idea I was watching. The breaking point came on a Tuesday night, sparked by a conversation so absurd it still feels unreal. Lauren stood in the kitchen with her arms crossed, telling me, in the most casual tone imaginable, that she wanted a break. Not a breakup. A break. But then she added, "You'll still cover the rent next month, right? I can't afford to move yet." It was the way she said it, like it was obvious, like it was my role, that made something inside me go cold. "You want space," I said slowly, "but you still want me to pay for it." She rolled her eyes. "Don't make this complicated. I just need time to figure out my feelings." And then she slipped. She admitted she was thinking of reconnecting properly with her ex, while still living in my apartment. Like it was reasonable. Like it was normal. Like I should just accept it because I was the stable fallback she could rely on. I swear, in that moment, the world didn't explode. It narrowed. Focused. Everything became sharp. Quiet. On the outside, I stayed calm. Too calm. I said, "If that's what you need, then do what you have to do." Inside, though, the switch flipped. The moment to act had finally arrived. She didn't notice. She was too busy being smug, too wrapped in the certainty that I wouldn't dare leave, wouldn't dare challenge her, wouldn't dare stop being the provider she leeched off. Lauren grabbed her purse and snapped, "I'm going out to clear my head. Don't wait up." She slammed the door, confident I'd still be there when she came back, probably ready to apologize again. But the second the door clicked shut, I exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for months. I pulled out my phone, dialed my closest friend, and whispered, "Bring your pickup truck. It's time." He didn't ask questions. He just said, "I'm on my way." And as I stood in that silent apartment, the apartment I paid for, furnished, maintained. The moment my friend's truck pulled into the parking lot, something inside me hardened, not with anger, but with clarity. We walked into the apartment together, and without a single word of hesitation, I started taking back everything I had bought. The couch Lauren lounged on all day. Mine. The TV she binge-watched while claiming she was emotionally drained. Mine. The air fryer, the plates, the curtains, the mattress, every single thing came from my paychecks, my sacrifices, my overtime hours. I yanked open drawers, cabinets, closets, piling everything onto the living room floor before carrying it all out piece by piece. I documented everything meticulously. Photos. Videos. Receipts. Serial numbers. Screenshots of bank statements. I wasn't leaving a single inch for her to twist into some fabricated story later. Every item I removed had a digital trail leading straight back to me, and I made sure it was undeniable. With each box and chair loaded into the truck, I felt a weight peel off my chest, years of emotional exhaustion lifting, piece by piece, like someone. Lauren came back to an empty apartment about an hour after I left, and the explosion started immediately. My phone lit up with call after call, each one more frantic than the last. At first it was screaming, "You ruined my life. How could you do this to me? What kind of monster just disappears?" Her voice cracked through the speaker like she was the victim of some unimaginable tragedy, not the architect of her own downfall. I didn't answer a single call. Then the texts followed, paragraphs accusing me of abandonment, emotional abuse, manipulation, and even theft. "You stole everything," she wrote. "You had no right. You can't just leave me like this. We were working things out." Except we weren't. She had been working things out with Evan. She had been planning a future with him while using my apartment as a safety net. She had been lying long before I ever packed a single item. I sat on my new apartment floor, bare, quiet, calm, and watched her meltdown unfold in real time. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. I felt nothing but a strange, peaceful detachment as I blocked her number. The silence that followed was the kind of silence that heals. Within a day, mutual friends started messaging me. "Dude, she told everyone she was paying half the rent. I can't believe she lied like that. Bro, she's losing it. What happened?" So I told them the truth, not out of spite, but out of exhaustion. And the moment they realized the real story, the tone shifted. Shock. Disbelief. Then anger on my behalf. My new apartment was smaller, much smaller, but the peace inside it felt massive. I remember standing in the middle of the living room on the first night, surrounded by the furniture and belongings I had reclaimed, feeling something I hadn't felt in years, ownership of my own life. No tension. No lies humming under the surface. No secondhand perfume on clothes that weren't mine. Just quiet. Just space. Just a version of myself I had forgotten existed. Unpacking was strangely emotional. Every item I placed on a shelf or plugged into a wall came with a memory, not of Lauren, but of where I'd been before I started drowning under her needs. The couch reminded me I deserved rest. The kitchen appliances reminded me I deserved to enjoy the things I worked for. And the bed, my bed, felt like a clean slate where I could finally sleep without wondering whose footsteps had been in the apartment earlier. Supporting the wrong person had drained me in ways I didn't fully understand until I wasn't doing it anymore. I hadn't realized how much of myself I'd given up, my savings, my time, my confidence, my peace. It was like I had been slowly hollowed out. But with every box I unpacked, I felt those empty parts filling back in. Friends help more than they know. They dragged me out to dinners, invited me to game nights, sat with me when my mind spiraled. Not everyone is like her, one of them said one night. You're not unlovable. You were just with someone who loved what you could give, not who you were. Hearing that, really hearing it, felt like oxygen. Months passed. Life smoothed out. Work felt lighter. My home felt safe. Then, through mutual acquaintances, I heard what had become of Lauren. Couch hopping. Burning bridges. Fighting with friends she once manipulated. Evan wanted nothing to do with her. Her fresh start had collapsed the same way every lie eventually does. But here's the part people never expect: I didn't feel satisfaction. No revenge high. No triumphant closure. Just clarity. Just strength. Just a quiet understanding that I hadn't destroyed her life, she destroyed it by underestimating the man who funded her fantasy, and finally walked away.